Have you ever done a paranormal investigation in your own house? Well, we have.
So, Rose has been living in the same house for quite some time, 7 years, and has been having nightmares.
The first 4 years of living here was fine. Beautiful old house. It's actually a nice neighborhood. I like it there. It has kind of a bad reputation, but I like it. Very historical. I knew it had a big history. Never felt a thing. But then 3 years ago, I started having these recurring nightmares.
Yeah.
And this was right before the pandemic, actually. I remember talking to you about it the first time even. And it was always a dream that was a little bit not sure if I was awake. Sometimes you have
like a lucid dream.
A little bit like that. And I never really have lucid dreams. Mm-hmm. There's always a small gnome, and he's standing at the other side of the room, and he's just watching me. In the dreams, it's raining in my room. It keeps on coming back. And this feeling I get in the dreams, it feels like it's also something that I feel here on the streets. It's kind of a darkness, kind of a sad darkness that is in this entire city. Like it feels like it's bigger than just my house. And I don't really know what's up with that.
Yeah, and if it's just you, or maybe it's a thing in the neighborhood. Maybe it's a thing in the city itself. How far does this go? Is it what is it?
I want to know more about it.
Sounds like it's research time.
I think we need to do a paranormal investigation.
Rose is about to turn off the electricity in the house.
All right, I'm going to do it.
Alright, I'm gonna turn the IR light on. Yes.
All of a sudden, we hear a disembodied voice coming from underneath the staircase. It sounds like the voice of a child. But when we look down, There's no one on the street that could have made these sounds. No one but us is inside this house. I want you, Sybil, to go upstairs by yourself and just feel the room.
In the dark.
In the dark, like no lights at all.
Is there someone in here with me? I hear you give a lot of nightmares. Is that what you like to do? Okay, I'm gonna play it back. Let's see, my recorder. Can't really see it.
So I'm downstairs. While in the meantime, Sybil's upstairs. Because she is the most sensitive of us. So I hope by sending her upstairs by herself, she isn't a bit more receptive to whatever someone did in this house.
Here I am, lying in the same spot. There's my feet down there. You're doing an EVP session. This house is reported to have a lot of nightmares. She sees a figure standing next to her bed.
As we are about to close down the investigation, this is what happened next. Why do I only get that? Why do I get like only the music playing?
Ghost Maidens bloopers. What the Stop.
I think it thinks that we're mocking it.
Woo, that was crazy.
Like right when we were playing around. The mirror broke, even though we covered it up.
I can't believe that mirror just fell off.
Right when I was mocking this place.
Oh my god.
Hold on. Did a mirror just fall over by itself? We should take a closer look at what the naked eye did not see. A black cat crossed our path and broke a mirror. Coincidence? Or is there something else responsible for this very superstitious occurrence? We can't help but wonder, is there more we didn't see? A black cat, huh?
Knocked over the mirror. right when we were having a little bit of a jokey time. We covered up the mirrors, all the mirrors in the house, in order to insulate the environment from interference.
Yeah, for the same reason we also shut down the electricity.
Yeah.
So there was also no Wi-Fi at that moment.
Yeah.
We switched off our phones.
Even though it's like, it wasn't a ghost, it was a cat, it was still like all the things that are considered bad luck happening at one time.
For me, that's a paranormal moment. We were almost about to leave, actually.
There was this like little music sample stuck on the recorder.
Yeah.
It wasn't playing our voices back to us. It was only playing that song.
You were also laughing when it happened?
Yeah, because Rose was like dancing, and then I couldn't see. It was dark.
Yeah.
I was just filming with this kind of like IR light on. I couldn't really see that much. And I could see that there was something that had moved. Like, my camera followed it, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I figured, I was scared by the noise. But also my reaction when something scary happens is to laugh.
Yeah.
That's my reaction, is to laugh. So even if I'm scared, I'm laughing. It's like a crossed wires or something. And Rose was terrified because she had no idea her back was turned.
You almost stopped filming also.
I almost stopped filming.
Yeah.
And we also had a bit of a struggle with it too, because we're like, well, it looks like we thought this moment was funny because of my reaction. And it was hard because we had to explain that, like, I was scared. I was surprised, but my reaction is to laugh. So it looked almost like we set the moment up or something.
Which we absolutely didn't.
Because it would be impossible to make a cat knock over a mirror right on cue, right in the middle of our dance.
That would have been so professional. But it actually makes me think, in a paranormal investigation, why can't it be funny? And I kind of like it that we're the Ghost Maidens and that we do comedy, and then even comedy and laughter and jokes, basically, become a part of our paranormal investigation.
Yeah, which makes sense now.
We wanted to make something scary.
Yeah.
And something serious. And
Just can't do it. But we also felt like at the end, we didn't really catch anything that was like super spooky. We didn't catch a ghost on film. We didn't catch a lot of like weird voices. We caught that childlike voice. We were even like, oh, it kind of ruined our investigation a little bit. And then we were like, but wait, when her cat knocked over the mirror, that was the climax.
And I think this happens a lot with paranormal investigations, that you're so fixed on finding a specific thing that you're actually blind to the things that are happening around you. It's not about capturing a ghost. Like the voice on the stairs is actually the thing that I would dismiss over my own cat knocking over the mirror.
What's with all those symbols of bad luck happening?
We need to put it in context.
Like a black cat breaking over a mirror, we were just like, oh, it's Rose's cat. It just knocked over the mirror, but then we're like, wait, that's actually considered really bad for some people. And just imagine doing a paranormal investigation in your own house.
Yeah.
How you feel after sleeping there. Like, did
That was weird.
awaken something? Are you gonna find something maybe you didn't want to know about the history of your house once you start looking into it?
But also, I didn't really know that much about the history of my house. So, in this investigation, I think we didn't really do much more than just turn the lights off. Combining the nightmares with that very symbolic moment of the black cat knocking over a mirror, a broken mirror, really makes me wonder what was going on in this place.
Yeah.
Where am I? In a small, lion-shaped country in Europe, a lurid past sleeps in the dark waters of forgotten history. The Netherlands. Famous for its great art, an uncanny ability to turn water into land. But let's dive in a little deeper. The story we're about to tell you starts in 1242, when the Netherlands, formerly known as Holland, were still considered feudal farmlands. Count Floris IV, a nobleman from the Habsburgs family, decided to build his castle in the middle of a vast swamp near the sea. He established the early settlements of what we now call the city of 's-Gravenhage, or The Hague. Up to this very day, on the same soil where the city was founded centuries ago, we still find the home of the king, the International Criminal Court, and the seat of power for the Dutch government. And right next to it, there is a lagoon, which is the only thing left from the time before man. After Floris IV settled into his castle in the wetlands of The Hague, the early population began to grow. But while the city expanded to one side of the castle on solid soil, the other, unfit side of the castle would be left alone for 400 more years, the swampland remaining untouched in its ancient slumber. But now, we are beginning to enter the Golden Age, and Holland is about to write a new chapter in its history books. In the late 1500s, the reigning power structures in Europe began to shift. And this would beckon in an age that would change the world forever. The dawn of global capitalism. Starting in 1568, a war with the Spanish was raging outside the country's borders, and the economy was drained by constantly keeping them at bay. This effort caused embargoes which blocked the Dutch from trading spices. So, with a pragmatic spirit, the Dutch established the VOC, also known as the Dutch East India Company. In order to fund this enterprise, they created the world's first stock market, located in Amsterdam, where rich individuals invested in the VOC. This would allow the seafaring people of Holland to produce larger fleets of ships, which could go further than before, and bring back wealth from the more exotic places in the world. Expeditions were made to the east and later to the west. The ships returned with the extreme profits gained from trading spices, cocoa, sugar, tobacco, and slaves. With the rising trade and lucrative exploitation of new lands and people abroad, an economic boom of new wealth happened at home. Since there was a lack of fertile ground in the country, the fortunes made by the VOC were heavily invested into reclaiming land from the sea. With these developments, the rich got richer, towns turned into cities, and new social classes began to emerge. This was also true in The Hague, the capital city of the Dutch government. So, in the 1600s, the new Prince of Holland, Maurits van Oranje, inherited the seat of power together with the VOC and its greedy ambitions. So, with this new golden age in full swing, combined with the Dutch mastery over land and water, Prince Maurits made the decision to finally drain the dormant swamp at the other side of the castle, expanding his reign over land that had never seen the light of day. But what dark specters are released when greed and blind ambition disturb sleeping lands? And how would they make themselves known to its future residents?
Clearly, there's a lot of history going on here in The Hague.
1200s, there's this count.
Floris IV
Puts his castle in the middle of the swamp.
Yeah, because it's kind of untouched nature, it's hunting grounds.
Yeah.
You're next to a nice resource. There's fish, there's deer, there's birds, there's all kinds of things that you can easily access. You get water, you get food, and you get privacy because no one was there yet.
Yeah, so in The Hague there's two kinds of soil. One is sand, dunes, with nice water, clear drinking water.
Yeah.
And the other part of The Hague is swamp. Not good for drinking water, not good for building houses. So when this city first started expanding, everything was built on sand.
Everything's going well in the Netherlands. They're entering the golden age. There's a lot of wealth being created. And with more wealth, that means more expansion. Of course, with more expansion, when your country's becoming richer, you also start to engage in more wars because you have resources and things that other countries are going to battle you for and all of this. So there was a war with the Spanish.
But because there was a war with the Spanish, they were blocking the trade, basically. Like the Spanish, they were with their fleet, they were blocking the trade for the Dutch people. So they had to explore new ways to go to get the spices. So they founded the VOC. Instead of getting all the money from the king and all the money from the government, build a stock market, which was also the beginning of a new social class. Mm-hmm. But also when a new social class emerges, a new kind of wealthy person, then also that means that in cities, poor people in cities is something else.
Because when you have extreme wealth, you also start to form a gap between extreme wealth and extreme poverty with this system in place. That also means that sometimes you expand on land that isn't good for living, but you have to make more because your city is growing.
And where do the poor live?
We're out here, right? And we're zooming in. We're zooming in because where Rose's house is on that land. And you can never just research the location in isolation. You have to take the bigger picture into account and why this place was created, because it's a bit of a special neighborhood.
So basically what happened, 1200s, a count moved in.
Yeah.
They built new houses on sand.
For a couple hundred years.
But then the Netherlands got really wealthy because of the VOC. And The Hague became kind of the capital of this country. So they had to expand. We have to also keep in consideration that the reason for this expansion is because of the exploitation abroad.
Right.
Because the successes of the VOC, which is like the most notorious company, I think, in history, which was the very first international company. It is actually the start of capitalism. So when the cat knocked over the mirror after my nightmare, we found out this about the history of the place. It makes me wonder those people living on that ground, me, but also the people before me. Who are they?
What kind of life did they have?
We know about ourselves, but are there more people that can feel this? Meneer. Oké, er is een camera. Ze zeggen dat het een Haagse mythe is.
Ja.
Over een schim.
Het doet een klein belletje rinkelen, maar ik weet niet goed waar je het over hebt. Meneertje Pech.
Wat weet je over meneertje Pech?
Nou, dat hij verschijnt bij mensen en dat er pech op volgt. Verder weet ik niet heel veel ervan, maar dat verhaal bestaat, dat weet ik wel, ja.
Heb je hem wel eens gezien? Of gehoord?
Ik heb denk ik een keer van hem gedroomd. En die nacht werd er bij mij ingebroken. Toen niks gestolen. En ik kan me van die nacht een droom herinneren. Waarin een schim verscheen. Een beetje een treurig mannetje met geloof ik ook een regenjas aan. Een groene regenjas. En een hoed op, denk ik. Ja, dank u wel. Doei.
Nightmare. That's interesting.
Rose.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of the bad luck man?
Well, the thing is that I don't know what he does. So, well, I'm a little nervous.
Goedemorgen mevrouw. Goedemiddag meneer.
Okay.
Did they just call me a meneer?
So you work there?
Yeah.
Do you think we can come in?
I can make a call.
This is our opportunity, Sybil. We get to go to a bar again.
A bar? Have you ever heard of meneertje Pech?
Rings a bell, yeah. Well, I've heard stories and I think they're similar to what happened to me, so scary, yeah. There's this children's song, I believe. I don't remember the lyrics, but yeah.
What does he look like?
It's like this small little guy, maybe this high, thin, this little beard, not a complete beard, like a little bit ugly beard, I have to say. I don't remember if I've actually seen it. I think it was maybe a dream or a nightmare, if it was real or not, right here in the center. The next day I felt ill. Like, you know the feeling for really bad hangover, but then even worse. One day I even skipped work.
So where are we right now?
Pardon my Dutch.
Come on.
When we are in the Schilderswijk,
Okay.
which is named after Golden Age painters. Every street
Schilder is painter.
is painter, but it has a bit of a reputation. It's not the best neighborhood in the Netherlands.
Oh my god. Do you see that too?
There's Rose right there with no feet being a ghost.
What the f? She looks like me, right?
Yeah, let me see that. I want to zoom in on that. That looks exactly like you.
It's like the only difference is that she has different bangs, right?
I've got a basket.
Isn't that a bad sign? When you see your doppelganger, you're gonna die or something? What are these walls trying to tell us?
That would just be the cherry on top of this last year, wouldn't it?
It's a little bit freaky, actually.
Okay.
Ja?
Jammer.
Is goed.
I think we maybe have to go back to the school area.
Well, it's still interesting to ask. Are you superstitious?
Yeah, black cat. If you break a mirror,
7 years,
7
bad
years.
luck.
And if you open an umbrella at home, it's bad.
Do you believe it?
Not all of them, but you have to stay safe. I might not believe it, but I just don't do it.
You maybe stay away from black cats. And what about you?
No.
So if 7 cats ran by
No.
you, nothing, you wouldn't be
Nothing,
like,
yeah.
this is gonna be a bad day?
No.
Ever had an experience?
Oh yeah, with Black Cat.
What happened?
So Black Cat crossed my road and I broke my phone instantly. I just jacked my phone for, I don't know, and I
Okay.
dropped it.
So what can you do to protect yourself?
I think you can't. I believe in karma, yeah.
All right.
That's why I'm making good things for people.
It wasn't easy to find people to talk with.
No.
When we were walking around my house and we asked people if we could ask them some questions, like the moment we mentioned Meneertje Pech, or the moment we mentioned that we're researching a myth
Yeah, or like spooky stuff in general.
or a paranormal thing, everyone is immediately gone. Like
Yeah.
they don't want to have anything to do with this.
It kind of started to sound like it had a name. This kind of like ominous little figure.
It's interesting that everyone is just talking about a dream, and then this figure,
Yeah.
and then bad luck following.
For example, the first witness, Lucas, he was basically describing how he got broken into. And then it was really funny that when we interviewed those boys, they had a story about a streak of bad luck.
The bartender, Casper, was also talking about having this dream and then getting really ill. Mm-hmm. So it kind of looks like if you dream about this bad luck, man, bad luck follows.
Right.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Like the bad luck man comes to you when you already have bad luck. Mm-hmm. Or there is this correlation between this figure and bad luck.
In whatever form. If you believe that a cat knocking over a mirror is bad luck, then the way it presents itself to you is different from person to person.
I don't think it's a ghost. It's more like it feels more like it's
Like an egregore?
an egregore that manifests on a rainy day, so to speak. A collection of fear for bad things to happen.
Maybe you could convince yourself that you're having bad luck if you see that. Maybe you can kind of generate this, but that's kind of what an egregore is. It's a thought form. And multiple people can experience thought forms. You can create thought forms. For example, when you do paranormal investigating and a lot of people are going to the same spot and reporting the same kind of stories, you can generate an egregore in that space. You can make the thing which you are investigating real.
And it's very interesting that it's happening now. Right before the pandemic started, actually.
Yeah.
That's when I started dreaming about him. So it kind of feels like, could it be more active now? There's more bad luck.
Maybe he's attracted.
Maybe he's attracted to bad luck, or he announces it. So I'm also wondering if there is any historical correlation with the current times. Maybe something happened in the past that is similar to what's happening right now.
Making him emerge out of the water again. Maybe we haven't found everything from the past. We need to go even further into investigating the history of this place specifically. This neighborhood, this house, this room, what happened in here?
On a silent night, a ship arrived in the harbor near The Hague. Some of the fishermen had a strange blue complexion. A harbinger of the death that would ultimately follow in its wake. Concealed on this ship was a microscopic stowaway brought back from the river Ganges. First, you'd notice a fever and chills, and all your energy draining away. This was followed by dizziness and vomiting. And when you could no longer keep your fluids inside your body anymore, you knew the blue death was waiting on your doorstep. The disease started to spread around the city. Many children lost their lives before they could even speak their first words. The streets of The Hague turned grim as death searched for its lost grave. Eventually, it became clear that the water was contaminated with cholera, imported from the Dutch activities in foreign lands. The effects of these foreign enterprises began to make themselves known here, in the shape of misfortune, haunting those who had already suffered the most. The circumstances were horrible on the newly drained sludge. There was one group in particular that was affected by the unforeseen consequences that manifested after the land was newly drained, all in preparation for the construction of cheap housing made for the lower classes. The church did a lot of charity in the times when disease and poverty roamed the streets. They built orphanages and had special services providing food, care, and roofs over the heads of the poor. But the Jewish people of The Hague weren't a part of the accepted church-going community. And while being in great need of it, they were not afforded the same level of help. So in 1884, at the peak of one of the most notorious waves of disease to have ever hit the city of The Hague, a rich Jewish merchant set up a committee, and over the span of a few decades, a special enclave was built in the center of the Schilderswijk neighborhood, in the hopes of protecting them against the fatal outcome of bad living circumstances. But it would be years before the quality of drinking water was improved, and many people would still die from old world diseases in the times to come. And much later, World War II would cast an even darker shadow over the faith of those whom these houses were originally built for. I think that's the link.
Yeah.
In my house, people died of cholera.
Definitely. A lot of people were dying of cholera. If you didn't know someone in your family, you knew your friends. Because basically when you're doing stuff overseas, you bring back foreign diseases. That's exactly what happens when you're doing colonization. You're exploiting lands. People bring back diseases, unfamiliar diseases without a cure. And it was especially bad because once this kind of disease gets into community with a lot of people, we see what happens with the COVID-19 pandemic. It spreads fast. And especially because this was waterborne and there wasn't a good source of drinking water because of where this land was exposed on,
Yes.
everyone gets sick fast.
So an expanding city, because of exploitation abroad, causes a prince to decide to drain a part of the city.
What happens when you build on land that isn't fit for living? And what happens when you build social housing for people who then become sick with a disease? And then you can start to see how this kind of 800-year-long chain of events starts coming together, where you can't really necessarily isolate it by just a couple hundred years. You kind of have to go deeper, which is what we're trying to do in our research. We're trying to see what's the bigger picture. How does the bigger picture boil down to this feeling of bad luck, these nightmares, this entity, this egregore comes from somewhere.
And it seems like this drainage of that swamp that this count settled into 800 years ago is the source. So what do we do now?
Well, I think since he's attracted to misfortune, bad luck, maybe we can try to use symbols, familiar symbols of bad luck. Maybe we can try to coax him out using objects that for a lot of people represent bad luck.
Bad omens.
Things that you never do, superstitious objects, superstitious behavior.
So basically we put a spotlight on ourselves for a spirit that's attracted to bad luck.
And maybe we should even use the same things that happened in the first investigation.
A mirror, a ladder, a black cat.
An open umbrella. Maybe we can lure him out of the nightmares.
I think we would have to be in trance for that, since he's more a figure that appears in dreams.
Yeah, the liminal space of consciousness. Maybe we can even try to aim for a full moon or something.
Friday the 13th.
I think there is a Friday the 13th coming up, actually.
On Friday the 13th, 2020, on what many consider one of the most unlucky days in a very unlucky year, Sybil and I are back. This time, we will use unconventional and artistic techniques to coax out the entity that we've been referring to as the Bad Luck Man. By curating the room with common representations of bad luck, such as an opened umbrella, a ladder, and a piece of the broken mirror from the first investigation, we hope to dramatically conjure the specter. Sybil attempts to retrieve information from the void by using a technique called automatic drawing, all while being under a trance. I'm using a technique called scrying, where I gaze into my own dark reflection in the hopes of receiving significant messages or visions from beyond the veil. The white noise roaring inside our headphones, combined with the pitch black of the room, creates a sensory vacuum, making us more receptive to the messages coming from beyond. Someone was left behind and forgotten. A stranger is looking at me right now with a pointy face. It's even smiling. It's even smiling at me. Oh no! Why do you look at me like that? Aren't you coming closer? Just tease. Just tease and then stay away.
I just see eyes watching me. A bunch of eyes. Eyes. Forget about what you think you might be writing. Just write. Just make the movements. And that will turn into something, I think. Okay, I'll make one more. You see it? I'll do this one in darkness. Similar troubles. They have similar troubles. Less trouble. Less trouble. More chance. Less bad luck. Trouble and chance. More troubles. Less chances. More troubles, less chances. 4.
I think it always goes like this here. That everything is unheard. Everything is always unheard and unseen, and then it goes away again. And then no one talks about it anymore. Like how you would kill a spider on the wall. You would just see it crawling closer to you, and you will find something that you read, like a flat surface and a piece of paper, maybe a book you were reading, and you would just kill it. And it would leave a black stain on the wall, but you would just paint it over. You would just paint it over when you move in. So no one has to see that you killed. No one has to see that you've killed. And you will forget that you have killed. Because you thought that it was the right thing to do. I just feel something putting its hands on my shoulders. It's the absence of someone touching my shoulders. Yeah. This is an empty room. It's the most terrifying thing there is, actually. Just haunted. Haunted with emptiness. With dreams, basically.
More troubles, less chances. Yeah, I think that's clear. What happened there? When you started crying?
So I'm in my own room, but in a completely different context. And I'm just completely embraced by loneliness. A presence that's telling me that no one's there. When it's just you in a gray mass between waking up and the day before, when you look very far into the future and you're not sure if you're gonna be all right. That's the bad luck, man. So what do you see?
I see all the doubt. It's like the part of the night where the doubt creeps in. And I think that doubt creates bad luck. I think that doubt is the space you allow when you think something isn't going your way.
So do you think that when there is a lot of doubt, then that's when these kinds of specters can come in?
Yeah, I think they're one and the same. An egregore, a thought creation, a ghost. It can turn into a sort of consciousness. That's what people think ghosts are. They're not necessarily beings. Maybe Meneer Chapek isn't a being which exists as a conscious thing. Maybe he's just like some sort of representation or simulation. How well can we see this? These are the drawings. Right here. I don't know.
So what if you look at these now, do they still mean something to you? Do you still recognize some of the shapes, or do you remember drawing it?
Well, I think firstly we should be looking at these drawings as sort of an imprint of emotion, of the past, of something. I don't want to look at these drawings as, oh, there's a face, there's a guy in there. I don't want to do these sort of like ghost hunting things where they see a blurry face in the doorway and say that this is the physical face of the ghost. I was the medium in this. I was channeling something through me, and that doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm channeling through me is going to be a perfect picture.
But how do we extract meaning from it?
This is all very hard to explain because it's like also explaining like artistic process. Like, how do you think of the things that you like to draw? My brain is active and my arm has to move.
So it's more like by drawing, you get yourself in a state of mind where you're more receptive, or you're receptive in a different way.
Yeah, like.
So the drawing is not the product.
Exactly.
It's the way. It's like the tool.
It's just a result.
Yeah.
It's just the byproduct of this state. So I don't want this to necessarily be
like mental residue or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we were encountering.
Yeah. So when we see your hand moving, we are actually looking at your artistic skill or your artistic tentacles pulling stuff out of the ether or something.
It's just a byproduct of opening myself up to this void to receive a message, an interpretation, an imprint, a feeling.
And for you, what came out here, I think really strong, more troubles, less chances.
When you cannot attain the things that you feel you should attain in life, you have less chances.
The specter that we've been chasing for the last 3 years is a specter for the unlucky. which makes me think. Am I unlucky?
Is this what one would call a curse? Not, what's the word? Like, are you...
Marked?
Marked. Will it follow you when you move? Or can you leave it behind? If you leave behind an unlucky place with a lot of dark history, does your bad luck decrease?
And maybe when I move out and I go to a new place, there will be another specter waiting for me there.
Is haunted by you and me. I saw your ghost in a cup of tea. You hold all my thoughts in your possession, 'cause everything you touch is haunted history. Sage my head, put salt around my bed. Take away these dreams, let me sleep instead.